when they busted those big runs early, how much of that was guys either not knowing exactly what they were supposed to be doing or not physically executing the play?
Both. On one, it was a missed technique, missed tackle. Another one, it was a misalignment. So there were more big plays than obviously we want to go into all the detail about, but it was a mixture of both.
Go back to Ira for follow-up.
Can you take much from what you guys did in the second half? The explosive plays kind of ended midway through the second quarter, I think. Did you feel like you guys played better? Did you guys change what you were asking guys to do at that point?
Well, we were trying to be aggressive early in the game. They gave us some formations that were formations that sometimes you can or can't be aggressive in. But sometimes when you pressure it and one guy pops out or one guy doesn't get his job done or the group doesn't leverage it the right way, it creates some explosives, but we don't want. It's hard to say you settled in when you give up over 40 points. You never want to say that, but it wasn't a good overall performance for sure. But I was proud of the second half. I was proud at the end of the game, the fight, and I was proud about the overall effort. We've got good kids that want to get better. They're eager to try and make this thing turn too. And our job is to make sure that we do it the right way constantly, every single day. We're able to look them in the eyes and tell them the truth and see the improvement. And listen, we want the improvement to go from one step to a total flight of stairs. We want that to happen overnight. We're driving to make sure it does, but we got to understand and make sure they understand about what they were getting better at, what needs to improve. And, we keep putting, some guys out there that need the experience, and that's going to continue. And we got to make sure we keep it that way.
Hey, Coach, obviously you got another great challenge this week. North Carolina guys coming in off their best offensive performance of the year. Kind of talk about the challenges that they provide with Sam Howell, and then they really got their running game going against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they're operating at a high level, and it started that quarterback. I think he's going to his sophomore year, had an outstanding year last year, and they came off of a great performance against Virginia Tech. Obviously running the football. They've got wideouts that can deliver, so they're an absolute challenge from sideline to sideline. Those two backs and two wideouts, the quarterback, they're playing well up front. So, yeah, they offer a lot of challenges, that's for sure, Pat.
Coach, you mentioned the other week about wanting to see some players take the reins on positions. Have you seen anybody step up at any positions?
On a consistent basis, there's been some, and you can tell the guys that are out there the most are the ones that we feel are getting, the job done in a way that they should be getting it done. So, yeah, there's been some of it, but obviously not enough. But I've got faith in our players. I really do. Is it perfect, Monday through Saturday? No. But our job as coaches is to show them what it looks like every single day. And whether you have some success or whether you have some failures, they need to see what that looks like. And, you can't fake confidence. You got to make it real. But confidence is built with work, and work is built with preparation constantly. And we're trying to show them that as a staff every single day. And, listen, they have success. Sometimes we say it wasn't good enough. Sometimes it's a failure just because of a mega play, and we try and teach based off of how they did it, not always the result. But listen, the results are what we all look at, right? Players, coaches, everybody. And you just got to make sure that you keep the players' focus on the things that are critical for them to have long-term success. So we're in the middle of it right now. It's always difficult when you're not having, the outcome that we want. But these guys are giving us their hearts, and we got to make sure that we continue that on the same plane.
Earlier Mike mentioned that there was plays to be made there for the defense. Guys were put in position to make plays, but at times they're just not trusting their fundamentals. In terms of the word fundamentals, are we talking about things that these kids have been taught since they've played football, or are these things that are sort of unique to the scheme and what you're asking them to do fundamentally?
Well, that's a broad question, Aslan, but I understand the question, right? It's like, okay, when a play hits, like, what's the problem? What's the reason? And, there's sometimes there's one or two or three reasons per each play. It's not always the same reason. You wish it was. But I think when Mike mentioned fundamentals, I think that goes with just technique. Are they playing with the right technique in order to get their job done? Because what happens sometimes on defense, I think it happens on offense too. If something doesn't go right, players sometimes press. And press doesn't mean play harder or don't play harder, but when the picture maybe changes on me, instead of reacting with the correct technique, I'm going to maybe go on the other side of the block, or I'm going to take my eyes off my man, or I'm going to come out of my zone to be able to make the play because I got to help my team play better. And that's a waterfall effect, in a negative way sometimes. And I think that happens when you're not having the outcome that you want. And, there really becomes a belief between players and coaches that what you're coaching is going to work. Their belief in their technique is going to get them the outcome they desire. Because I think we all have this natural instinct when things aren't going well with anything, right? Football, obviously here, relationships, you're always going to resort back to something that you believe in, that you trust. It might not always be the most, it's instinctual. It may not be the best thing to react on. And that's all part of what we're doing right now is making sure that we celebrate when they do things with great effort, with great technique, within the team concept, that we celebrate those, regardless of the result. Obviously, we want to connect all those things to success. That's when you really start to roll as a team and as a defense. And we want to make sure that we continue to that foundation of making sure we're telling them the right things and that they see the success at one point to back up what we're telling them.
Hey, Coach, we saw it in your game and really across all of college football this past Saturday. Scores are up across the board. Heck, even Alabama gave up 48 points this last week. Obviously, there's some function or relationship to the offseason. You guys had the unusual circumstance. So why is that playing such a hard role? Why are defenses having such a hard time catching up with offenses right now?
Gene, maybe this is the wrong answer, but I don't care. Like those things and point, like, I've got a TV too, and I've got a phone. So, you see other teams, but like, I don't really connect that to anything that's happening with us, and, listen, our job is to stop people. Sometimes we've done it, but we haven't done it enough. And it falls on me. It falls on our staff and our players. I believe in our players. And I believe in what we're doing. We just have to do it better, more often, with better consistency. When I say more consistency, I'm not just talking about execution, making their one-on-ones, effort. It's all part of it. If there's always one thing to do, you're just going to harp on that one thing. As coaches, you want to just do this. Once we hit that foundation, do the next thing, and those all become habits. But listen, there's good offenses in the country. There's good offenses in the league, but there's good defenses too that defend those things. So, I don't have enough of a mind to tell you it's because of this, that, or this with all the points. I just know our job is to stop them. We need to do a better job.
Hey, Coach, discussing safeties and them being the last line of the defense, how much are those guys struggling right now with making sure they're in position to, basically clean up on plays that go bad on the first two levels for you guys?
Every play that breaks, there isn't always a post safety, Chris. You wish there was, right? But sometimes when you pressure, you got to take the safety and you got to put him someplace else. Sometimes when you don't pressure, and he's got the ability to be in the middle of the field, then obviously that's the job of the post safety to make sure he puts the fire out in your program, and the big plays are limited to 15 yards and no more than that based on angles and space. I thought at times we've done a good job with that. At times our post safety is in great position to make a play. At times, their eyes may not be perfect. And at times it's scheme. You're not always going to put a guy in the middle of a football field. Sometimes you put two guys in half fields. But I think overall, I think we've got, Renardo, I think, is playing good football right now. Jaden, I think, is getting better. We got BG in the game more than he's ever played now that he's back. Ray Woody has been taking snaps for us too. So we've been rotating through with those guys right now. I think they all offer some strengths, and we're trying to use them to the best of their ability within the strengths that they have right now.
We'll go 2 more. We'll go back to Aswan.
Adam, I guess just for the way the season has started out, how much of the slump, I guess, is just not having guys available, and then you had to use a primarily 3-man front against Miami. Mike mentioned Saturday night you guys try to play a little tighter in the box, I guess, against Notre Dame. Just the fact that you haven't been able to maybe like run a base or a foundational sort of philosophical thing that you guys want to do week in and week out. How much of that has contributed to the sort of inconsistency of play?
I don't think much, Aslan. I mean, you play defense in this time in college football. You're going to face a variety of types of offenses, and you need to be specific enough that the concepts carry over, and we've got to be clean as coaches so that when a player sees when we transfer from one week to the next, as you were saying, whether it's defensive scheme or offensive scheme, that those schemes aren't divided and a player feels like he's got to put one book away and grab a different book. And then he has trouble conceptually learning, and then not only learning, but applying that on the field in a Division I game. We take pride in trying to be in that way when we teach, that it's broad enough that we can defend things that are going to happen, but specific enough to each player that he can kind of hone in on what his job needs to be. It's easier with older players. It's more of a challenge with younger players, not because they're not sharp enough or smart enough, they haven't seen it. And experience is a good teacher. But like I've said before, just because you have experience doesn't mean you're going to be successful. So we got to make sure that the guys that we're putting out there consistently are the ones that see it the cleanest, but the ones that can obviously make the plays too when the plays are there to be made. So that's still trying to work its way out right now as a unit.
All right, the last one. We'll go back to Ira from Warchant.
Following up on that topic, you've obviously tried a lot of different things, and you've tried a lot of different personnel. I mean, games you guys have had 30 different guys out there playing defense. And I've seen you personally on the sideline trying to go with high intensity and trying to kind of put an arm around guys. I mean, like, where are you at right now with this defense in terms of understanding, like, maybe how to reach them or how to get the most out of them?
Yeah, I think we're at a good place. It's just constant, and anything we do, Ira, is just as real as we can be, and if I put my arm around somebody, because at that moment, I think they need it. If I get on somebody, it's because they need it. I try not to operate out of emotion, even though that's difficult sometimes. We all deal with that. But I try to operate with what that player needs at that time. Just as a person, sometimes that hits home in the right way. Sometimes it needs a follow-up. But these players need us, and they need us to show them the way. Both from an inspiration, from a learning, from a reaction, all of it. And especially in the time, when you're all getting pats on the back, and you treat somebody a little bit different, it's easier to deal with. But when people are pointing fingers at you and telling you you're not good enough, and that happens, and you start out with a 1 and 3, everybody's a little bit more sensitive to the topic of everything. But the way I've learned in life, be as real, as honest, as thought-provoking, and consistent as possible throughout the times. You know what I mean? Whatever the situation is. Just happens now, it's got a certain title in the book, but how we act, the consistency that we show is critical, especially at times like this. And listen, there's a lot of other things going on in this world, but right now at Florida State, we're dealing with playing another good football team, trying to improve, trying to get better, trying to deal with not being the consistent team that we're trying to be. And the best way to do that is to do it as coaches, so that these players understand how it needs to look and how we act and how we treat them every single day. Thanks, guys.